everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to make a video for you guys about paycheck tracking. So this is my paycheck tracker that I use here every single time my husband and I get paid. This just helps me fill out exactly what income we have coming in, go through all the different expenses that we have, and then by the end you should be able to come down here and see that your income minus your expenses and all these different categories, which are cash envelopes, sinking funds, extra debt and savings, and your total should be zero. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into this, and I'm hoping that it's not gonna take too long so that I can just kind of briefly show this to you. And if you guys have any questions, or if you guys wanna know anything more about how I do this, or anything specifically about cash envelopes, sinking funds, or even this part here, my extra debt or savings. I put debt / savings. Right now we're not really saving a lot, but I do pay to my kids' 529 account. So I thought it's just an easier way to put that there instead of having to create a whole nother box. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go right into this. And I'm normally, when I do my planning videos, I don't really talk a lot on them, and I'll do a voiceover later. But I don't want to speed this up too much or take away from anything that I could have to talk about while I fill this out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hopefully be able to fill this out and talk to you guys at the same time. So like I said, I've already filled one of these out before, so I'm just gonna kind of go from that, but I've already listed out all of the names of the expenses that I have and the amount. I'm not gonna put how much my income is versus my husband and all that on here, just for a little bit of privacy reasons, but this is our total income that we're working with for this paycheck period. So next I'm gonna go ahead and list all of our expenses. If you're new to following me, I have let you guys know before that we have a home in Georgia that we own. We currently live in Colorado and we rent that out. But of course we still have to pay the mortgage on that. And I am someone that never wants to be late on making a payment for something. So we do the split payment method for a lot of our stuff. Well, not a lot, but for both of our houses, oh gosh, this is gonna be a challenge to talk and do this at the same time. But for both of our houses, we split the mortgage in half. So this is rounded up just slightly for each of these houses. And then once I pay off my student loans, I'm still deciding on how I'm gonna spend my money, but we split the payments for this. And then of course the daycare is just owed every 2 weeks, so I have to pay that. And then we also pay half my husband's truck. So with one, and then this just allows us to be able to pay it like with certainty that not too much is gonna come out of our account at once. So we are ahead technically half of a paycheck every time we pay a bill technically. Gas is sometimes something that's typically a little bit hard to gauge. Sometimes we spend more, but usually we spend less. So anything that we don't spend on gas that just stays in our checking account is a little bit of a buffer. People have asked me a lot of times like how I feel about the $0 left over after zero base budget, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. People ask me how I am able to keep that straight and not ever go into like an overdraft. And when I didn't have a buffer, I'm not gonna lie, that did happen. Sometimes it's hard to say when. So like if a bill is due on the 5th and that just happens to fall on a Friday, if you like haven't aligned things up properly, it might pull it out before you were expecting it to, and then you don't want to have an overdraft. So I highly suggest if you're going to do the zero-based budget that you have some sort of a buffer in there, so that you know that if something has to get pulled before you're expecting it, that it's not going to overdraft your account. So that's just a little bit about that. I think I have mentioned this before on my Instagram channel, but and in my last cash envelope video that I posted, but sorry, I do not take out money for cash envelopes every single time we get paid. It's every 2 weeks that I take it out, so I'm not going to list that there. The reason is towards the beginning of the month we get our rent from our tenant, and so basically whenever she pays us, which is typically around the 7th or the 8th, we go and take our cash out in the middle of the month. And so really it doesn't really too often have to come out of like our regular income, if that makes any sense. But this is where you would list this if you need to make sure that you're taking money out for like food, fun, miscellaneous. This is where you would list this. So since we just came up with our expenses here, I'm going to go ahead and bring this over here. 2000. Oh, Gosh, I swear I know how to do this, guys. It's hard to talk and do this at the same time. All right, so next I'm gonna fill out my sinking funds. I think the next video that I do will be about sinking funds. I think that they are just such a perfect way for you to be able to save for things over time instead of having to come up with the money all at once. And I know that sinking funds is something that can be confusing for some people. I know it was super confusing for me at first, but once I got the hang of it and did it a couple times, I couldn't believe that I hadn't done sinking funds before. So back to school is coming up, right? So how many people, well, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so times are different, but how many times have you had to go to the store and drop $300 on school supplies, and you know, somehow that's just supposed to fit into your regular budget? So you're probably not changing up your lifestyle at all for the month of July or August as you guys prepare to buy back to school supplies. But where's that going to come from? You know, it has to come from somewhere. You're going to have to cut back in a certain area. Now, if you're already managing it well, then, you know, that's great. But for people who are finding themselves like, yeah, you know what? I do all of a sudden have to find money for that, or money for Halloween because the kids need costumes, and they need candy and all the things, and most importantly, Christmas, right? So all of a sudden you have to find that money out of nowhere. It can be really overwhelming. But when you use sinking funds to help you pay for it and save for it along the way, by me putting away $50 every 2 weeks from now until November, I'm gonna have $300 by the beginning of November and potentially $400 by the end of November. Now I'll probably kick it up a little bit higher into gear once I get through some of the stuff. So like I might stop contributing to school so much soon. I'll lighten up on our travel and vacation. My sister's getting married soon. And then once Halloween passes, I won't be putting anything in there, though I will need to fund Thanksgiving after that. So it's just, you know, I'll probably kick it into gear a little bit. And plus my student loans are going to be paid off here soon. So I'll have some extra money to work with. But that's how I do that. So I'm going to total that up. This equals $325. I don't have anything for cash envelopes right now. This is $325. So in the beginning of the month, my kids' $529 comes out. I put, as of right now, I just put $100 each in there. As soon as my student loans are paid off, I plan on increasing that for both of them. So I'm pretty excited to see that happen, to be able to save for them and after taking care of us. All right, and then a big part of my check right now is going to student loans. We're saving a ton of money because I really haven't been doing anything fun lately, or really just anything out of the ordinary that sometimes might come from our checking account. So yeah, and I have really tightened it up. So I used to put a lot more into our sinking funds, but I tightened this up. I usually pay anywhere only like $250 to $350 for sinking funds, whereas I used to be putting like $500 to $600 into some of these categories. And I realized I could probably tighten the amount up that I put in here and be able to increase the amount that I pay towards my student loans. So that's kind of how I've been able to make that happen. Very, very few transactions go through our debit cards because they are either a planned transaction that we know about, such as like any of these expenses here, or well, gas is also in there, but so gas is really the only one that's not, you know, technically this number, because it can be, you know, however much we're filling up at a time. But these numbers come out, and then my kids' $529 comes out, our student loans comes out, and then the only thing I didn't put on here is our giving or our tithe. That also is debited as well. So those are the only things that come out of our bank account. The rest I transfer over to a different account, and whenever I need to, you know, get my nails done or get my hair done, I have a separate card that I use for that, and then on a separate piece of paper I keep track of the income or the amount coming in for my sinking funds, what's going out, and what the leftover balance is. So like I said, I'll do another video on sinking funds here soon, but none of this is going through my debit account, just this and this. So I'm gonna go ahead and total this down here. So again, I wish I had my phone, or I guess even maybe a calculator to show you guys this, but I just took my income, which is down here. I gotta get rid of this, but it would be my income minus expenses, minus my cash envelope money, minus my sinking funds, and minus the extra debt and savings that I'm putting towards, and this is gonna give me a 0. Now, sometimes in this extra debt to savings, I'll put right here, buffer, and I'll put $50 in there. The reason I didn't is because I know that I'm gonna have a buffer with this gas right now. I'm the only person in my family driving right now. My husband is on a leave right now. So he's going to be gone for the next 2 weeks, and he was gone last week as well. And I have only been driving my car, and no more than less than usual, just basically to work and back. And his truck, I filled it up after he left, and I've used almost no gas. So I can't imagine, and his truck is the one that takes most of the gas. So I already know that I'm not going to spend that much in gas. So I know that I will probably honestly have like minimum $100 buffer here. So the next time I get paid, I might, I'm definitely not going to put another buffer in there. So I've just added a little bit to my buffer, so I really won't have to worry about putting buffer in here for right now. But I do encourage you to do stuff like that, especially, or add this line in there. If you're someone who every now and then something random just seems to come up, it's just an easy way to make sure that you're not completely at zero, like in a bad way. You know, in a bad way, you haven't budgeted for things, or things continue to come up, and like, well, you know, then you got to ask yourself, why are these not expenses that I can seem to manage, or, you know, understand when they're coming and going, but also in a good way. So now I have taken every cent of our income and given it a place. How many times have you guys gone to look at your bank account close to the time you get paid, and you're like, dang, where did all that money go? Or how is it possible that I pay my bills and there's no money left over? I promise you, your money is going somewhere. You just got to sit down and you got to figure out how you want to spend every dollar that you earn, because you guys work hard for that money. And a lot of us spend a lot of time away from our kids and our family. And it's really important that, you know, the reason we work is so that we can have money and provide for our kids, and hopefully it's a job that we enjoy. But, you know, 9 times out of 10, you're spending a lot of time in a job that usually has nothing to do with your family. And, you know, you've got to be able to, you know, you're working hard for every hour that you're there. So you've got to be able to take that money that you're earning from being away from your family and make sure that you're doing really intentional things so that you can help and support your family in the way that's necessary, right? Or even if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're in charge of, you know, the budget for your family, how important is it for you guys to have a, you know, understanding of exactly where the money is coming and where it's going? I know that sometimes it can be really hard to be on the same page as your significant other, but I promise the more you guys talk about it, the more you guys do this, the more you guys feel comfortable with this, I promise it gets easier and easier. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me while I filled out this paycheck tracker. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know, give me a comment, follow me on social media. I am most active on Instagram at @AshleyMarie_plans. Thanks, guys.